I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 26th, 2018 regular meeting of the Guymon City Council. And at this time, I'd like to invite Angela Walker from the Church of the Nazarene to give our invocation. Would you please rise?
Father, we are so thankful for your blessing of rain on our land these past couple of weeks, and Lord, thankful for the promise of more land. God, we pray tonight for this meeting that your wisdom would prevail, God, that you would give our leaders insight as they best determine, God, how to lead this city. Lord, we know that there are financial things to balance and personnel issues to balance, and Lord, we just pray for understanding and wisdom tonight. God, we thank you that you give us minds, God, capable of understanding and the intellect. And Lord, I just thank you for these leaders and pray that you bless this time tonight, Lord. As things are presented, I pray that issues would be clear. God, decisions would be it'd be obvious what decisions to make. Lord, and we thank you that you are blessing our land. Lord, I pray in gratitude for each one of our leaders. Father, pray that you bless their lives and their homes. Lord, bless each person that's here tonight. We thank you that you are pouring out on us. Father, we pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Swagger, would you read us some pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call this meeting to order. Attendance roll call.
Peterson,
Here.
Swager,
Here.
Alvidrez,
Here.
Crone,
Here.
Livengood, Hoffman. Here. Mr. Petty,
Here.
Mr. Wagner.
Here. Okay. Agenda item number 3 is approval of the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Crone,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvidrez,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 4 is public comments and announcements. I'd like to make one first. It's really good to be back, and I want to thank everybody that kept me in your thoughts and prayers about 4 weeks ago while I was having my vacation in Oklahoma City. I appreciate it. I have become the poster boy for getting your shingles vaccination. I had that and another little deal together, and they said I was pretty special having both of them at once, so here we go. But anyway, if you haven't had your shingles vaccination, go get it, because you don't want to go through this. Trust me. Is there any other public comments now? Mr. Harris.
Yes, I just want to remind y'all of the spring cleanup. We had it set up for last Saturday, and because of the potential rain, which we're glad we got in the cold weather, we didn't think we'd have much turnout. We did leave the landfill open early, or the transfer station, and Karen reported we got 4 tons of trash in, and I was kind of excited. And she said 3 tons were in the trash truck that we picked up around town on our Saturday route. So we did get 1,000 pounds better. But the weather's supposed to be great tomorrow. We're all set up just like we were before. We'll take brush, tires, any hazardous materials. We've got the trailer set up from Surrey County. Any loose trash will need to go to the transfer station. But anything that's bagged or big items that we can pick up and handle, we will pick those up and load them. Brush, anything in town, we'll chip them right over here, and we'll take the chips to the game preserve and use those. Just wanted to bring that back up. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments and announcements? All right, agenda item number 5 is discussion and possible action on approval of an easement right-of-way agreement to Public Service Company of Oklahoma for the Windcatcher project. There's a fact sheet and other items. Is there any discussion, questions? Oh, we've got some folks to talk about. Good. Good evening.
How are y'all this afternoon?
We're good.
I'm Tracy Donaldson. I'm the lead right-of-way for the western segment of the Windcatcher Energy Connection project.
And I'm Alan Manning. I'm the right-of-way supervisor with Coates Field Services for the Windcatcher project.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any questions of these fine folks?
I'm not sure. When are you gonna get started?
That's the question everybody in the state wants to know.
I think we're pretty well started, but we are still pending regulatory approval. And that's why we have option agreements at this time instead of an easement to present. So once regulatory approval is granted, we'll be moving forward with that easement conversion. So this gives us an opportunity to go ahead and start looking at the easement language. I think y'all definitely wanted to visit about the ingress and egress. Tracy has brought that language, the approved language that we have to present, for y'all to take a look at, and I'll let her take it from there.
We just received that this afternoon, so I brought a hard copy, which will be forwarded to the attorney for review, to take a look at what was presented from the client, AEP and SWEPCO and PSO.
And this will be.
So with this, what,
Go ahead.
we've been in a lot of talks and conversations in the past. We asked for added language to go in with this contract. At this time, I think it would probably be best to table this, and we'll let Mr. Petty review all-inclusive before we sign anything or go forward.
Okay.
We were just here for any questions that you may have regarding the project itself.
Well, he asked the main one that everybody wants to know.
When are we getting, we're
When
already
was it gonna start?
started.
Yeah, that's everybody's question. Okay. So do we have a motion?
Make a motion that we table item 5.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second?
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Crone.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item number 6 is discussion and possible action on approval of the contract amendment number 1 between Kimberly Horn and Associates and the City of Guymon for the Guymon Soccer Complex project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Larry Mitchell here to talk to you about the amendment we're proposing for the soccer complex. You made a lot of progress so far. You had a concept plan. We have that up on the wall here. We're planning to post those out at the site sometime next week. But on your agenda, you have an amendment to the original contract with Kimberly Horn to do the engineering and design for the project. And what we're asking you to do tonight is approve the next 2 tasks, which will cover all of your site grading and site design work and your utility planning for that site. It also includes the coordination of our project with the school's parking and transportation planning that they have out for bid right now. So what we want to make sure is that we are matching up with the schools on their site design and their grading plans so that we're not flooding them and they're not flooding us, and that we have our utilities in place before they do the parking lot. So the task that we're asking you to approve tonight is in the amount of about $75,000, and when they finish that work, we'll be ready to go in and do the site prep work leading up to construction. The last 2 tasks in that amendment have to do with the actual construction documents, the bid documents, when we get to the point of actually going out for bid on the soccer fields. And currently, you have a copy of a preliminary budget in your document in your agenda packet, and this is the engineer's very preliminary ballpark figure for the project. And you'll notice that it includes a 15% contingency fee, which is typical at this point because once they really aren't sure of all the elements that have to be included in the design until they get a little bit further down the road on putting the project together. So, and you'll notice in the first piece of that, it's broken out into 3 pieces. The first piece includes an estimated share, city share of the parking lot that the schools will be building. Obviously, we don't have a number yet, but we've had a couple conversations with the schools, and we've talked about some share, whether it be a 50-50 share or a 60-40 share, depending on how much the schools are using the parking lot versus what we think will be using the parking lot for the soccer complex. So when we get those numbers in, we'll be able to firm up that portion of the budget. So once those two tasks are completed, I think the city could proceed with some of that site work that we're talking about in that first section of the budget, which is referred to as the infrastructure improvements for the site. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
When's the traffic study going to be done?
I would say that that's probably going to be done under the phase, when you get the
I didn't see
next
it in
task, the phase 1 part. It's probably not listed in there, but that's probably when they would be doing that, once we get past the site design. We really need to have the work on the schools done, or have that underway, to know that this is the actual egress and exits for those entrances around the school before you start doing the parking, before you do the traffic study.
Have we started like a fund drive?
We hopefully will kick that off. I mean, you've given notice that you are going to hold a public hearing for the annexation of the property, so hopefully in the next week or so we'll be able to start that fund drive. I've already checked into a couple foundation grants, and part of the requirements for those foundation grants are that you have a set of construction plans done, so that you know what you're actually going to be doing, so that you can tell them what your budget's going to be and what you're actually going to be doing on the site, what kind of facility you're going to be undertaking. And you also required, some of the foundations require that you've already raised about 50% of your budget for the project. The last thing a foundation wants to do is donate or make a commitment on a project that doesn't happen, because there are a lot of financial implications to that for the foundation. So, any other questions that you might have for this
Any other
item?
questions? Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve amendment number 1 between Kimberly Horn and Associates with the City of Guymon for the Guymon Soccer Complex project.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
Crone,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item number 7 is discussion and possible action on approval of the master agreement with Guernsey Engineering for consulting services for the Guymon Downtown Corridor Design Project. We've got some attachments. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Happy to answer any questions for you. This is one that we've been working on for quite a while. Last fall, committee selected Guernsey after a review of, I think, 5 or 6 RFPs, and the council authorized the city manager to proceed with negotiating an agreement with Guernsey for doing the work. You have a lot of material in your packet about all of the scope of work and the tasks that they're going to undertake. I estimated a not to exceed number of 100,000, and hopefully we can keep it under 100,000 for that design work. But it's basically for Main Street from Highway 54 to 12th. And they will start by doing a survey, a property survey, to make sure that they know how much right-of-way they have. Sometimes when you get in these old downtown areas, Main Street areas, you have a lot of encroachment. Some of the buildings actually encroach on the right-of-way. And so the purpose of the survey is to make sure that you know where those buildings are sitting in relationship the right-of-way, and the other factor there is that Main Street is a state highway, so you want to make sure that you're aware of where that right-of-way runs through your downtown. So you have the number for the survey, but the other tasks haven't been budgeted at this point.
Okay. Any questions?
You said we've got 100,000 set aside for this, or?
Well, the Nash Foundation gave us a grant for $150,000 to use for this project.
Because my concern is, are we going to actually have the money to do it after we get a design?
Well, I mean, once you get all the design work done, then you have a budget, then you can break those down, you can break this project down into increments. You could certainly do it on a 1-block or 2-block increment, starting at the railroad right away and working your way to 12th Street. I think one of the biggest questions is what is the future of the brick section of Main Street? Because you probably have utilities running underneath the street, and if at some point in the future you're going to have that as a major highway for 136, then obviously there's going to be some work in there, and if that happens, then I would guess that there's probably going to be some transportation dollars that would be available to help do that project.
And I did have a discussion several months ago with the resident engineer, and his take was there were some dollars available, but that he thought we were better off doing the design and getting our stuff done ahead of time rather than getting the grant from the state and then having to jump through their hoops like we did on that 3-block section down south.
Right. Typically, you have to have your design work done before you can request the funds. Because I think a lot of that is going to be the utilities. It's going to be water and sewer, maybe storm drainage, how to handle that in the future.
Plus, wasn't this, I know we've got some concerns about a big water line that goes down the middle that if it ever ruptures and breaks, we might want to have our ducks in a row
Yes.
to do what we need to do.
So maybe what you think about doing is maintaining the brick streets on the side streets and replacing the brick on Main Street. That might be an option.
Yeah. Doesn't sound like Automobile Alley on Broadway.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Before they
You
do
could go
the
back with a
intersections.
concrete, with a stamped concrete and have a brick look, but it would be concrete versus the brick. Or you could maintain the brick at the intersections as a treatment and remove the brick for the block of the street.
Any other questions, discussion?
Moving forward, it's going to be city manager responsible for this, so I'd like to hear his thoughts on this project.
I actually was in Oklahoma City with Larry, and we met with Guernsey about this. Going forward, I think if you have the funds available now to do the work, I think it's beneficial looking ahead for the future. And like Larry said, if you do a block at a time, we've already got it in place and we're ready. Plus, if we're going to go out for grants, maybe it's a downtown beautification grant or something of the like, we need something in place before I think they would even consider giving it to us.
And there are funds available through TSET to do some of these projects. The landscaping, sidewalk improvements, those things funds are available through TSET programs.
Would you say this is basically getting the project shovel-ready in case something would come up where that's a requirement?
Yes. Yeah. I think it's a much better approach than trying to do it block by block. I mean, you do the entire section, and then you can actually, you can make the improvements block by block, but you want to have an overall conceptual plan for downtown, and that was one of the action plan, part of your action plan, and your comprehensive plan listed this as one of those action items.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea with all the complaints we got we receive on Main Street. So I like it.
Any other discussion, questions?
I make a motion that we approve the master agreement with Guernsey Engineering for consulting services, item 7.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second.
Crone,
Aye.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 8 is discussion and possible action on nominations of 2 trustees for the Oklahoma Municipal Assurance Group Board of Trustees. And there's some biographical stuff.
Council, there's 9 people on this list, and I will go ahead and give y'all 2 of those 9 sent in letters asking for the nomination, and those would be the Mike Bailey, who's city manager in city of Bartlesville, and Craig Stevenson, who's the city manager in Ponca City. Those are the only 2 letters we got.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we nominate Mr. Mike Bailey from Bartlesville and Mr. Craig Stevenson from Ponca City.
Second.
Good. You got a motion and a second?
Crone,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 9 is discussion and possible action to accept the library board's recommendation to approve the 2018 library policy manual. Good to see you tonight, Rachel.
There's only one addition, really. That's a social media.
Would you pull that mic closer to you, Rachel, please?
The only change would be the social media policy on the last page. We previously did not have one. And I looked at several different libraries that had them and kind of borrowed ideas from all of them and came up with something that the library board approved to recommend to you. So I don't know if you have any questions about it.
I noticed that there was an article in the paper today about no carry or no guns permitted.
Okay, I need to do a little bit more research on that to make sure that the law hasn't changed from what we list here, but it would probably be in that same statute. But yes, they are interested in putting signs up. But I want to make sure we're still complying with state statute before I have, request that.
Did the library board help you put this together?
I'm sorry. what was
Did
that?
the library board help you put this together?
I presented the social media policy, and they looked it over and approved it as is.
Okay.
They did make a couple of changes, but this is how they approved it.
Any other questions? Discussion, motion?
I make a motion that we accept the library board's recommendation to approve the 2018 library policy manual.
I'll second.
Item 9.
Have a motion and a second?
Swager.
Aye.
Alvedras.
Aye.
Crone.
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Agenda item number 10 is discussion and possible action on notice of a hearing to declare structure dilapidated and order removal of dilapidated structure and set date for completion of work at the following property, lots 4 through 6, block 21 Guymon Original, also known as 516 North Roosevelt. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Stalis?
We are here before you, as you had mentioned, on a dilapidation determination for, I've got it right here in front of me, 516 North Roosevelt. Now, this is very similar to abatement hearings that you've held in the past, where you're actually looking at lining this up. The property owners are here, and they have agreed to demolish this structure, but what we're looking at is having this all in order so that if that demolition is not completed by July 30th, then it will give the ability for the city and staff to move forward with the demolition on this project. So we do have some pictures With there?
Doug, you
Yes.
You said June 30th.
June 30th.
Okay.
I apologize. Yes, June 30th. I keep coming back with that. So it's June 30th. And we do have some pictures. There were some in your packets, but for more, if you'd like to see it, there's a location map that's on here. Basically, it's about a block and a half from here, really about a block away from the local school. So there is some concern that this is an unsecured structure that's there. The garage is basically leaning. If you look at the pictures, you can see that it's being propped up with posts. The side is caving in. There you go, if you can see metal posts. And actually, if you look at the side, which I believe would be the north side, they have booms actually holding it together on the inside, but the outside, that north structure, if it weren't for that metal fence there on the church property, it may already be down because it seems to be leaning and getting a little bit of strength off of that fence right there that you can see. Now, there are a number of code enforcement issues with this property, but this is a step to move towards correction with the property altogether. So right now, we're dealing with the dilapidation of the garage structure. There will be further, we'll continue to work with the property owners in the future on the cleanup and all beyond that. So. And I do have our building inspector and code enforcement officer here if you have any additional questions. Obviously, we followed all of the state requirements for posting and notifications on this as well. And we do have photographs at the end if you need to see that as well. So, thank you.
Any questions?
Mr. Mizlandis, do you totally understand what we're asking or what they're asking for?
Yes, we do, and we had planned on it, waiting for the right help, the right weather, the right wind, the right everything to be on, but we will hurry on and get it done.
Is the June 30th date acceptable to you?
Prayerfully so.
Okay.
We will do our best. We would just, I teach in the summer as well. July is more open, but we respect the decisions made. Longer will be easier. But
With good faith effort, we can always extend it.
Right.
If there's progress being made, we can extend it,
Yeah,
right?
we could extend if we needed to.
Will you guys give us an update on how it's going? And
We definitely will. And our recommendation would not be to extend this. And once again, it's because of the proximity to the school, the church, the activities in this area. This structure really is not secured. As you can see from some of the pictures, open windows. Now, the property owners have put a board up, that's blocked that, but it's nothing that, a little wind or a little tap might not knock that down too. And we do consider this structure to be very dangerous.
Okay.
So-
do you not feel that we can probably work with our citizens instead of just saying you're going to recommend that we don't give an extension?
Sir, I always feel that we can work with our citizens.
Okay.
And the staff has been doing that. But what I say is we also need to be very concerned about the safety of our citizens as well. And so the June 30th date, the process has been followed, and that's where that date falls. So obviously, it will be up to you in the future, but what we are looking at is for approval tonight is if this structure is not taken care of by the property owners by June 30th, that's when the city would move forward with their work. And like I said, this is not any different than what you've done in the past with previous properties.
And we happen to have a council meeting on May 31st. So,
You wouldn't need to have a council meeting if the applicant does not have this down on the 30th. You give us we have the order that will be signed here to where we could take action on July 1st.
Well, I think the side discussion up here is if they show good faith and they've started tearing it down and weather or something will get in the way, then we would have the levity. You guys would have the levity.
We would come back in, but we would do that before June 30th. And also, I wouldn't be concerned about the dates of your meetings. We'd want to make sure that was you know, we'd like to communicate with you and let you know what's going on as much
Yeah,
as
we'd like
possible.
to
I'm not
get-
comfortable giving you permission to go in at 8 o'clock in the morning on July 1st and start tearing it down.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, but that's, you know, essentially this order would be to give us that authority if so needed
I would
with that.
prefer you came back to us before you started the actual work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Motion?
I'll make a motion that we declare structure dilapidated on Lot 4-6, Block 21, on Guymon Original, AKA address of 516 North Roosevelt, with the date being June 30th, 2018.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
Have a motion and a second.
Crone,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
All right, agenda item number 11 is discussion and possible action to appoint Dedere, I think I said that wrong, Harbison to the library board to fill the vacancy with the term ending in 2019. And this was left by Nancy Gribble moving the opening. And I think there's a staff report and an application and recommendation. Any discussion, motion?
Mrs. Harbison here?
I don't think, is Ms. Harbison here tonight? Don't think she is. Any discussion? Motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Ms. Harbison to fill the vacancy left by Nancy Gribble.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 12 is discussion and possible action to authorize to advertise for bids for 50 new and unused four-wheel gas golf carts. Any questions?
Is our agreement on the golf course we got now up?
We are past our warranty. They are expired. We had a 3-year warranty. They were purchased in October of 13. The agreement that was done previous was for a 6-year term, expiring October of 19, next year. However, we do have some equity in the ones that we currently have to trade in on the new ones. The problem we're running into now is you're having issues with the golf carts, and we're having to replace parts and labor to fix them, especially as we approach the summer months and they're going to be used more. Going forward and going out for bids, they've changed their warranty. It's no longer a 3-year warranty. You can get a 4-year warranty, and I would say that we probably need to look at a 4-year agreement along with a 4-year payoff as well. But at this point, we're spending money into the golf carts that are breaking down. And if we can get the equity that we can get out of them at this point, I would say that's probably our best option going forward.
Who's doing the repairs for those broken ones in town?
We have a guy that comes from Easy Go, and I believe he is out of Oklahoma City.
Nobody local that could do it?
Well, I don't know if
Or
the
is that
parts.
the agreement that we?
I would have to read the agreement. I just know he was the parts guy that worked on them previous when the 3-year warranty was there, so we continued that way.
So your recommendation is to?
This is just approving me to go out for bids. That way we can see what else is out there. Like I said, the purchase of the 2013 carts, we had a 3-year warranty. Now, if you buy an 18 model, you can get a 4-year warranty, which I think would save us in the long run because we're in year 4 of these carts and they're already breaking down. So we wouldn't be paying the out-of-pocket expense of fixing them or having someone fix them.
There was a time when we leased golf carts instead of purchased them. Is that ever feasible, or I'm not a golf cart person,
Right.
so I don't.
That's something we could look at if that's the way the council wants to go. I think it's beneficial for us to buy the 50 and pay it out over the 4-year, and you have the full warranty, because currently what they're offering for the 50 golf carts that we have is about half the price of a whole new fleet, which is really good, I think, for golf carts that are 4 years old and pretty worn out. So I would prefer to have the rolling equity and review that after a 4-year term to say, okay, we can keep going, or are these stable to go another year before and we're a year without payments? But that's something we can look at.
Is there a way to get into a rotation where we could possibly purchase 15 one year, 15 the next year, so they didn't all crater at the same time?
And I talked to the Easy Go salesman about that, particularly to keep it rolling. That's not a bad option, but then if you look at your warranty as well, depending on which year model, a 3-year to a 4, and you have a problem with an expired one because you have 50 carts at the end of that term, you're going to have at least 20 that don't have the warranty. So you're kind of playing with fire. That's kind of scary, but we can look at that as well.
But the biggest advantage you're telling us is that if we go the 4-year deal and a 4-year warranty, when it's time to trade them off, we can either keep them if we decide, but we could trade them off and start the deal over, and we would never be at any cost for repairs.
Right, and that's the way I think it's probably best. As much as they're utilized and used, you would always want to have that option at the end of 4 years to say, let's renew, or let's get rid of them and go. Just because the warranty work is really worth itself in gold, because the parts are not cheap, and the time it takes to get them replaced, and as the summer months come on, they're used a whole lot more, so it's just inevitable. We're going to continue dumping money into them. So this is just allowing us to go out for bid to see what we can get for 50 different golf carts.
I'd still like to see us down the road start looking at maybe golf sheds for golfers to have their own carts.
We've actually discussed that.
That's a cash cow. Need to do it.
Yeah. I'll make a motion that we authorize Mr. Wagner to go out for bids for 50 new and unused 4-wheel gas golf carts.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
New business. We'll stand adjourned as the Guymon City Council. And we'll go to the Guymon Utilities Authority. Maybe. We'll reconvene as the Guymon Utilities Authority. We've already done items 1 and 2. Agenda item number 3 is discussion and possible action on approval of invoices to Cardinal Engineering for the following projects. 3.1 is invoice number CIV 2486 in the amount of $2,300 for lift station renovations project. Invoice number CIV 2487 in the amount of $770 for water well number 23 replacement project. Invoice number CIV 2487 in the amount of $650 for the 12-inch gravity sewer water project. And that's all. Any questions, motion, discussion?
I'll make a motion that we approve invoice CIV 2486, the amount of $2,300. Invoice number CIV 2487 in the amount of $770. Invoice number CIV 2488 in the amount of $650 to Cardinal Engineering.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 4 is discussion and possible action on approval of pay request number 4 in the amount of $110,064.94 to Slattery Construction for the lift station rehabilitation project. Pay request number 4.
I'd just like the update of how we're doing with them, and
Please.
They're getting ready to lift.
I hope so.
This pay request is for $110,000 out of a $1.2 million project. There's various parts in this. It's not all for one lift station. The lift station on Southeast 10th, they started up today and tested it. There were a few minor leaks, a few little grouting and some things around some pipe penetrations had to be finished. But that thing is operational. They'll manage it for a couple of days. That one's in full operation more or less right now. They were adjusting some floats this afternoon. They're going to pick up and move to the industrial lift station. It's at Cactus and Road T. That's one of them they had started earlier in y'all's report. I showed a different basin, a larger basin for high flows. They're going back to that point, and we'll start working on it. They'll move the equipment tomorrow and start working on Monday. Since they've already got a head start on it, it will should move along pretty quickly. That project, to get the electricity paid for last summer, I guess, IBTS paid the PTCI to go ahead and order the parts and move forward, because the city can't pay for anything until they get it, and they couldn't put it in until we paid for it. So once that is put in, we've got the information to get to Lavona to bill y'all back for that portion, to cover that.
Okay.
They had to change the power on that one from single phase to 3-phase. 480 is the reason for the upgrade on it. I think they've done some work on some of the others, but that's the main part. They're just, a lot of it was just prep work getting started on it. But things are finally moving along. They got a slow start.
Yeah.
And I think there's a change order. I thought was on this agenda. I guess it'll be next one for the emergency disconnects that we'll add to those, so we can add generators to run them. So we'll have that at the next council meeting.
Thank you.
You're satisfied with the progress they're making on this whole thing?
They're slow. They're behind schedule significantly at their own doing. They were caught up on another project, and we've been meeting with the engineer. I guess it was 2 weeks ago. Came up to meet with Mitch and to try to push them on a little bit. Now that they're finally here, they're moving. It'll go pretty fast. The quality of the work's pretty good. It's something that's been needed for a long time, but I've never had a contractor work as fast as I wanted them to. And this is another one of them, so to add to my list.
Did we have any, in the contract, anything date-wise, or how many days they had, or?
There is a schedule. I believe they're already past time for completion, and they're into damages.
Okay.
So we do have a fee per day. On the change order that'll be on the next council for additional work, there's a request from additional time, and I suggested that we give them time. We can't keep giving them more work and not allowing them some time. And there were, in these other change orders, they didn't request any time, and honestly, they probably should have, and we should probably consider that. Not that they are on schedule in the way they should be, but there were some changes that were unknown until they got down in there and drained them. Nobody really knew, so we had to make some changes with our plan, so that did cost them some more time. So it would be warranted to give them a little bit of time. I don't think they're off the hook, and we shouldn't let them off at this point, but we need to make sure we're lenient within what it should be, so.
Okay.
We'll keep you up to date with that.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? We have a motion?
Thank you, Mr. Harris.
Might as well stay, we got one more. Any other discussion? Motion?
Make a motion that we approve pay request number 4 in the amount $110,064.94, Slattery Construction, item 4.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras.
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 5 is discussion and possible action on approval of pay request number 1 in the amount of $40,227.94 to Ryburn Construction Incorporated for the lift station and force main to serve Southeast Guymon project.
This is the project, had some updates in the reports, then we'll land the force main down Hurleman for that project. The lift station's not started, but it'll tie into a lift station once the force main, which is the line from the lift station back to our main collection lines at the highway, is complete. They'll start on the gravity flow section of that. So this is for the portion along Hurleman.
Okay.
They've done a good job.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion that we approve of pay request number 1, the amount of $40,227.94 to Ryburn Construction, item 5.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Swager,
Aye.
Alvedras,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 6 is reports from city manager and council members. Anybody have any reports?
The Adopt a Park program is going on, and I'm aware that there are some parks that haven't been adopted, but in the I work for PTCI. We adopted a park, and Pete Hedrick, that's over parks. He's doing a really great job coordinating with us and getting us materials and getting us quotes for materials needed to revamp that park. So just kudos to the Parks Department on that for helping us get that going. But there are parks available for businesses or individuals that want to adopt a park.
I've had some comments on the fence out by the rodeo grounds, how great it looks, and appreciate all the work they've put in out there.
Does look good.
Just that it's Doc Garner rodeo weekend for the college rodeo, so if you want to see some good college rodeo tonight, tomorrow night, and Saturday, it'd be a good time to go watch the kids and support them.
Can I come park in your driveway?
You can.
Okay. Everybody else does?
Yeah.
Mr. Mitchell?
Just want to give the Fraternal Order of Police tailgater is Saturday night at 6 at the Pickle Creek. I just wanted anybody can go. Also, you took the Doc Gardner, but again, Pioneer Days coming up. Everybody slow down, be careful. There's a lot of people in town. And I gave y'all some information, and I wanted you to know there is guidelines that have been drafted, and it is just a draft, and it's for you guys to read it when you can, and if you want to revise or talk about it and make any sort of revisions, get back with me. I plan on attending that next meeting and giving that to that board.
Okay.
But other than that, that's all I got.
Thank you.
One last time, get your shingle shot. We got one more deal to do, and then we'll be through. Any new business? We'll stand adjourned as Guymon City Council. And we're going to reconvene as the Employee Retirement Board. Call the meeting to order. Agenda item number 2 is to approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2017 meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 13th, 2017 meeting.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second.
Alvedras.
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
Agenda item number 3 is discussion and possible action on a request for normal retirement for Michael Menifee.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request for normal retirement for Mr. McPhee. Or Menifee.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second.
Alvedras.
Aye.
Swager,
Aye.
Crone,
Aye.
Peterson.
Aye.
We've got 4 ayes.
We'll stand adjourned. Thank everybody for coming. Pick your part of heaven and clean it up this weekend.
There you go.